Hello and welcome to this very short episode of the Star Sailor podcast with Peter Clark and Hannah Hutchins.
Today we're covering the Voorwerpjes and the Voorwerp with Professor Bill Keel of the University of Alabama. What are the Voorwerpje galaxies?
Voorwerpje is the Dutch diminutive form of the word Voorwerp. And starting from Hanny's Voorwerp, the Voorwerpjes are like the Voorwerp but smaller. They are additional examples of clouds of gas, the size of galaxies often, which are also ionized by a central AGN, whether we can see it or not. There were a few of these known for a long time. Similar clouds of gas have been seen around quasars and radio galaxies. That's not so surprising because those have obvious, very powerful energy sources. The idea of looking for more of these around nearby galaxies, which don't have such powerful energy sources, was triggered by study of Hanny's Voorwerp. The idea that we would either be seeing an active nucleus that was hidden from our point of view, or might have faded dramatically, so that just as in Hanny's Voorwerp, we're using the speed of light to let us see what the AGN was doing, in this case, tens of thousands of years ago. So we could trace changes over times that we just have no other way to examine.
Okay, our last question related to AGN is what new information was gathered from the new Hubble data on the Voorwerp?
There are several things we learned from that, which is gratifying because that happens so often when you get data of a new quality. The Hubble spectra, right down in the center of the galaxy IC 2497, added one more line of evidence that the nucleus really has practically shut down. It's not pouring out the intense ultraviolet and X-ray radiation that it once was. So you can see gas very close to the core, which actually sees less intense radiation than the gas in Hanny's Voorwerp, more than 40 times farther away did. Particularly interesting in something that was completely accidental was finding that the core is blasting away not radiation, but gas. We see an expanding bubble or loop, expanding at something like 300 kilometers a second, 500 light years across, which, despite that size, is so small that we couldn't see it with telescopes on the ground. It was quite clear in the Hubble images and spectra. Radio observations, particularly with the Westerbork array in the Netherlands, had showed evidence that there was some kind of jet and maybe a broader fan of material spraying out from the galaxy that you only saw on the radio. And if we look in that direction in Hanny's Voorwerp, the Hubble data show us star-forming regions only in that area, only in the densest gas where it's presumably being compressed by this outflow. So that's another tracer that there's a fairly gentle flow of gas out of the galaxy. So we're wondering, maybe it wasn't so much that the nucleus of the galaxy switched off as that it did something that to this point has only been a theoretical notion. It switched between two modes, where the energy output produced by materials swirling around the black hole goes from mostly coming out in radiation, particularly X-rays and ultraviolet radiation, to one in which the energy mostly goes into blowing material away in the form of jets or winds. And in this case, we can then trace how long that took and ask how the accretion disk, how its behavior is alike and different from what we see for these stellar mass black holes, where you see things happening in a 24-hour period that would map to hundreds of thousands of years in something like an AGN.